Welcome to my new podcast in English. My name is Armelle Bontemps. I will be your host for today and more. I am so happy to welcome here amazing speakers, game changers, life lovers. Here you will be able to open yourself to more knowledge, more power. You will connect to the truth that you are and explore different levels of the reality we live in. I believe in the experience of life, in love, relationships, beauty. Please do not hesitate to share this episode if you loved it. Thank you for listening and thank you for your presence. Hi, Justine. Welcome on this podcast for this new episode together. I'm very, very, very happy that you're here. Like we said just before we go recording, I have no idea how I discovered your account, and you launched your Instagram account, First Contact US, about 2 years ago, and I think that's exactly the moment where I started following you. No idea how, but that was perfect for me at this time also. So I'm really glad we can have this chat today. Thank you.
Yeah, I started the account about exactly 2 years ago. Kind of been following this guy Bashar. That's kind of basically my whole information comes from Bashar, most of it. But basically, I've been learning about this since about 2010, 11, and I've never really applied. Like I've been applying it in my own life, but never really outwardly publicly. So I was like, it's about time. Plus COVID was going on, so I had some free time. I was like, let's start this up. Let's share this information. And it's been probably more exciting than I thought. I thought it was going to be a couple people were going to be interested, but it was overwhelmingly like, okay, people are ready for this.
Yes, I think we're going to talk about many things today. We're going to talk about also your life, how you just started on this journey with, connecting with all the ET first contacts and everything we're going to cover today, because you are also an artist, a musician, and a producer. You live in Los Angeles, and so you are also in this artistic field, and you are very connected to everything that is happening in the world right now regarding every aspect of the first ET contacts, we can call them like this, that are happening right now. You're going to talk about this better than I am, of course, but and that will happen also in the years coming. So, what is your story with all this topic and all these encounters? How did you end up following this?
Yeah, so basically, my whole kind of awakening happened from like 2010 to 2012. Right around that big date, the Mayan calendar, the 2012 date. Yes. So basically everything, all the lights were turned on, all the information got flooded in, did all the research it started with like light workers and kind of that spiritual. And then it also delved into quantum physics, kind of all these different. And then I discovered, like I said, Daryl Enka, who channels Bashar, who is his extraterrestrial counterpart. They're part of the same oversoul. So when I discovered this information, it just absolutely hit me directly to the core. I was like, this is real. At first, it was a little weird, like, oh, is he actually channeling an extraterrestrial? Blah, blah, blah. The whole concept is it doesn't matter where the knowledge or information is coming from. It doesn't matter that it's coming from an extraterrestrial. The matter is, does the knowledge work for you? When you apply it in your life, does it accelerate you? Does it ascend? Does it help you out? And then it's just kind of secondary that, oh, an extraterrestrial is the source of this. So that's their whole concept, initial first contact. So Daryl is his past life, but they exist at the same time. We would call Bashar his future life. Bashar simply means messenger, or bringer of good news. So the ETs, they don't have names because they're fully telepathic. So basically, Bashar is the name Daryl gave his counterpart, because Daryl's family is Arabic. So it means messenger in Arabic. So basically, that's when I discovered Bashar. That's when things really took off, and I saw the whole 3D falling. Like that was the major kind of the rebellious kind of young 20s, kind of like, I don't want to be in this reality. Like, studying about all the different conspiracy theories and like the Illuminati and all this stuff, and like kind of like, where am I in this? So that's the first step, I think, to all this, is you kind of want to rebel. you kind of want to say, F this reality, like everything's like a system and blah, blah, blah. And like, so you get over that pretty quick because then you have to, but I feel like that was the first stage of my awakening, is like flooding it in, everything within 2 years, like flipping on, and then kind of applying it. So you get more and more refined every single year that goes on. You kind of like know this, but then it's about actually applying it, sharing it. What do you do, opposed to just knowing it and sitting there, and not sharing it? Because a lot of people could use this information, and it's like so universal that it applies to everyone. It applies to every language, every age group, everything. Like it applies to pets. Like literally, it's all this knowledge is very, very simple, very basic, but it applies to every single person on the planet. So it's like the supply and demand is very, like the demand is, people are screaming out for this. The people that are not awakened yet. It's very simple things that they can understand from the knowledge that Bashar has been sharing, of how to change your life and how to be positive and let go of negativity. It's not complex stuff. It's nothing you have to pay all these crazy, like one-on-ones for, take all these courses. Like the whole college route makes you think you have to spend 5-6 years learning something. And like, if it's not hard, it's not worth it. No, their whole point is it's so simple, and it's so like genius is in simplicity. So very, very simple concepts that can change your life in one day. Why would it take 4 years for you to change your life? If you can literally know something in 2 or 3 days, you're like, okay, I'm snapped out of it. On this. So that's how powerful this knowledge changed me, going from kind of a stubborn college grad right out, and then right to New York City as like a starving artist, kind of, I flipped very fast in my kind of awareness and personality, from being, like I said, a stubborn kind of USA kid to like now I'm like I'm listening to extraterrestrials, like I'm smoking a lot of pot, like, I went that whole kind of that whole route. Because I was never like a hippie growing up. I was very kind of conservative and very by the books, very suburban. It's like, so everyone has the ability to transform like almost immediately nowadays.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I love hearing your story, because that's something you don't really talk a lot about on your account, and you don't really share anything personal except for your music and your artistic side. But it's very interesting because, me coming from France and with my community mainly French, we have also all these images on US for those who know America, and for those who don't, I can imagine what you say about, I started being this kid in the suburban place, and just like having all these questions popping up and starting to open up to something different. And I think it's crazy what's happening today in the world, because the ET subject is not something we don't talk anymore, and it's something very open and more maybe in a way. And I wanted to ask you also on what we call Project Bluebeam, but maybe you have a vision of that's maybe different polarities we can find in what's happening in the world right now. But I love what you say about being very simple in those concepts and understanding what's going on in the world, but in simple terms. And it doesn't have to take long. We are not in an era where time and space really matter like the way it used to matter before.
Yeah, there's true genius in simplicity. Like simple systems are the most complex, really, because they're that simple. So all these complex systems that are all compartmentalized don't actually work, because creation is so vast, so infinite, that it has to be simple, or it wouldn't work. It would break down. So that's why these laws, and there's basically 5 laws that Beresford talks about, they apply to every reality, every system, everything, every plant and animal. Like it's really boiled down to 5 laws that are unbroken.
You talk about
they're basically you exist.
You exist.
Can't do anything about that. You can't break that law. And if you exist now, by definition, they always say you exist forever. Since there is only now, if you exist now, you by definition have to always exist, because existence only has one quality, and that's to exist. It's kind of like, it's kind of logic. So basically, if you exist, can't do anything about that. You'll change forms. You'll become non-physical, but it'll always be you, which is the biggest concept. Even when you die and pass on, you lose your body, you'll still be you. which is really interesting. Your identity never fades. That's infinite. Your identity as a consciousness. So when you're dreaming and having dreams, you're not physical, but it's still from your perspective. You're saying, I had that dream, but I was going through all this stuff. I was flying, blah, blah, blah. I didn't have a body, like physical body. So yeah, your identity can never, ever, you're indestructible. So that's number one. Two is what you put out, you get back, which is basically the law of attraction. That reality is a reflective mirror. So everything's a mirror. Three, what is three? Jeez. Basically, what you put out, the fifth law is change is constant. Okay, so like everything changes, but the first laws. So basically, everything is always going to change. Nothing's going to feel the same. And sometimes people have like really, really spiritual moments, and then they don't, and they judge themselves, being like, why doesn't this feel the same? Like that was such a powerful moment. Like, but it's about like applying, and especially if you take certain meditations or psychedelics or ayahuasca and stuff like that. And people would love to stay in that state all the time, but it's about applying what you've learned from there. So like going up, grabbing the information, and then using and applying that in like the day-to-day. It's kind of like breathing. You got to come out, expand, learn all this, and then come back down and kind of apply everything. You put out, you get back. Man, I don't know. For some reason, I'm blanking on the other two laws, but we'll come back to this.
Yeah, maybe it's for later on.
Exactly.
You talk about first ET contacts on Earth, and I wanted to ask you questions, maybe in the terms, because maybe there are, something we need to differentiate between aliens, ETs, starseeds, galactics. What do you make any difference between those terms?
Yeah. So basically, like alien kind of means something that's very different than us. So that's the first kind of term that most people, when they think of aliens or what we're programmed for media and all this, is they're, very different insect-looking beings. And those beings do exist. But there's also, but extraterrestrial just means not born on this earth. So there's beings that look exactly like us that are extraterrestrials. But there's also beings that don't look anything like us that are extraterrestrials. So I think that differentiation is that there are people that look just like us, like the Pleiadians are very, very similar, but they're not born on this earth. They have their own world, their own reality, their own technology. So that's that. When I learned that helped trigger me to be like, okay, this isn't weird or taboo. It's like these people look exactly like us, but have crazy, beautiful technology, beautiful planets, absolutely zero toxins. Like, so imagine looking just like us. It takes the kind of weirdness out, like, oh, I'm talking to an alien. There are the beings that look nothing like us, and that they will be interacting with us later down the line. So like the Yael are basically the first hybrid. We'll talk about hybrids, I guess. Basically greys mixed with humans. The Yael have signed up to be the first hybrid civilization we'll have open contact with. So technically it would be the Pleiadians. They're not necessarily hybrids with the greys. So probably the Pleiadians are going to be the first beings first because they look the most like us. They're most genetically related to us. And then it will be the Yael, who will be a little bit different. You'll be able to tell they have a little bigger eyes. They have a little bit more exotic looking. And then once we get used to that, we'll start getting more and more kind of, okay, bring it on. Like, show me everyone that's different, like including the mantis beings and, all these kind of interesting looking beings, because we'll have the fear taken out of it. But if those beings were to show up first, a lot of people would go into panic.
Yeah. And what is it that we call starseeds for you? What is the meaning of this?
Well, I think it's interesting because the only thing that makes you a starseed is knowing the awareness that you are a starseed. Okay. There's nothing really special or genetic about it, or like everyone's a starseed. It's just, do you know it or not? Like, that's really that simple. It's like, if you say you're a starseed because you're claiming it. But there are connected, like there are genetics. Some people are more hybridized, like maybe us, and we have more extraterrestrial DNA. And that contributes to why you know it, so it kind of like everything, there's the chicken or the egg, or, it's like, yes. But basically everyone's a starseed. Maybe people just have not agreed to sign up for that in this life, that they said, I'm just going to live the basic third dimensional life and, fulfill my contracts. And like everyone has different agreements why they incarnate. So it's completely valid to never ever know about spirituality. And, you know, the paradox is the most spiritual thing you can do is to be physical, is to be completely grounded. Like the monks say, carry water, or chop wood, carry water is very spiritual. And hammering nails and being a carpenter and stuff is very, very spiritual, because everything's spirit. We're in spirit right now, dreaming. We're basically in heaven. You never leave heaven. So we're in spirit, in heaven, dreaming that we're not. So everything is spiritual, no matter what it is. Even if you hurt someone, that's, you know, it's like everything is spiritual. It's just the knowledge and awareness of that. I think that's what makes you a starseed.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's the position of your consciousness in a way that makes you realize, okay, I realize now that there is more to this life than what I see, what I've learned, and you realize this. And of course, you can maybe change your agreement and realize something during your life. There are so many, you know, events and possibilities. In, like you said, everything is spiritual because we've always been this consciousness.
Yeah. You just change forms. So it's about, we play the forgetting game. We forget just to remember. So we are God, we are goddess, we are all that is, that pretends, and we forget because we're already so vast. And the only way to learn something new is to forget who you are and then rediscover yourself from a new perspective. So that's it. That's how it learns, is by forgetting what it is to then remember. So that's the whole process of what we're going through. We've forgotten for so long when it's so dark, and it's the rubber band analogy. The further you go back into darkness and finally remember who you are, you shoot really, really fast, really accelerate into the light. And that's what's happening on Earth. It was held so far back, and now it's popped into the light, and people are just like ready for anything. And definitely exciting. It's like a roller coaster. Everyone wants to feel, or like a fast car. You want to actually feel the acceleration. You don't want to go 0 to 60 in 30 seconds. You want, 7 seconds, 0 to 60. That's, the acceleration's fun. So we play this game of forgetting to remembering, and it's definitely exciting what's going on.
Yeah, it's so beautiful when you think about it. You were talking about there's this law that existence can never cease, because it's like an elastic, which is like go all the way to the extreme, opposite, and just to realize that we were never separated, and that you forget to remember who we are.
Yeah, separation is truly an illusion. It's not separation. Everything's just from a different kind of mirror point perspective, but it's like a true illusion, like a hologram. All these things on Star Trek and stuff, where we're projecting our consciousness. And I think I'm here, but everything's just here and now. You think someone's over there. There's no over there. There's no out there. Everything's here and now. There's no then. It's like, it's the craziest illusion. All time, space, future and past is all an illusion. When you think of the past, that's actually happening now. Yes. The whole analogy is about the TV stations, that every station exists at once. So if I'm watching channel 3, I know channel 5 exists at the same time that I'm watching it. I don't say if I will change to channel 5, that's my future. No, I just change to channel 5. And if I'm watching channel 5, I know channel 3 is not in my past. Like, it's an illusion that I just shifted frequencies. Now I perceive 5. But I still know 3 exists. Every single station exists. That's the analogy of every single life, all timelines, everything's existing at once. And then that's the law, is what you put out, you get back. Whatever you're interested in, whatever your frequency is, I changed to channel 5. Like I'm done. I graduated college. I'm done with channel 2. Certain things you move on. It's like done with 4th grade. I'm going to go to the channel 5, 5th grade. So yeah, it's automatic. It's really cool, because whatever your frequency is, it's automatic, effortless. Creation gives you exactly what you need, exactly when, not a second before, not a second after. So you're always in exactly the perfect spot, exactly what you need, absorbing what you need to. And the challenges are always going to be there. But like I said, creation is not going to give you more than what you can't handle, because that would be nonsensical. It would be pointless to give you too much. And then acting on your excitement is the key that triggers everything. So by acting on your excitement, you up your frequency, you bring more opportunities in. You basically are aligned with like the highest version of yourself. But if you don't act on it, creation is not going to give you more, because they say, I already gave you it, and you're not acting on your excitement. So why would I give you more? But until you take action on it and take it as far as you can, You're like, okay, I'm done. I took action on that. And then whatever the next exciting thing pops up, take action on that. So I always like, that's the hierarchy. Whatever is the most exciting choice, even if it's going for a hike, talking to a friend, do that one first. And then when that weans, say, what's the next most exciting thing I can do out of all the things I could do? Take action on that first. Eventually you'll get tired and you'll say, I'm excited to go to bed. Do the same thing over and over and over. And like, that's all the system is acting on your excitement. That becomes the organizing principle. It brings you to all other excitement. So you might say, oh, I have this huge work thing to do or something, or project, but I'm really excited to go to the beach and then chill all day. But then you might get a huge idea at the beach that makes you $1 million. Say, I got that idea because I went to the beach. But that tied into your work that you know, the rational mind doesn't, you know, we want to think we're in control, but that's where excitement is the control. And who doesn't want to just be excited all the day? It's like a pet. When you see pets, they do whatever they want, whatever the most exciting thing is. They want to play, they want to eat, you know, and like, so we're being more kind of natural with how we've been taught and society has run, that you have to do things in a certain way, hierarchies, like, you know, I said schooling, colleges, like studying, all this. And it could be so easy to be just follow your excitement and that's it. Don't even, that's it. There's no other step.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting, because I would exactly understand that this thing that you were saying, the assignment and following excitement, to just like, you know, follow actually your consciousness. And I would say, you know, in my words, like, it's about devotion, you know, like being devoted to what's coming up for you. Like, you have an idea, just go for it. You have an intuition, just go for it. And you follow this lead without listening to your ego, mental perception that, okay, I have to do this because the society just pushed me to do that. And it's better if I do in this linear way of, you know, doing stuff. And actually, when you devote yourself to what's coming to you, it's the best way to live. This is what I've been experiencing myself, you know, connecting to God consciousness source and just following this again and again. And you just like you said, this is maybe an assignment. This is an assignment that you give yourself and that you give to yourself, you know, from your consciousness, and it's never separated. But yeah, in a sense, it's just about, for me, the way I translate what you say, it's just about, okay, you have an idea, just go for it, because this is perfect for you.
Yeah, and kind of, it's an illusion, like continuity is an illusion, because everything's its own fixed reality, like frame rate, right? So everything's an illusion, like movement is an illusion. From there to there was all actually fixed snapshots, just like a frame on a movie strip. Every single frame actually has no movement. But when you run them all together, you get the illusion that there's a movie playing. But it's actually just photos fixed. Basically, that's how reality is. Everything's fixed snapshots of parallel realities. And then basically the frame rate is 2 billion times a second, is how fast we're going through all these parallel fixed points to make it look like I just went like that there's a constant illusion of motion, and this connects to here. So basically what you're saying about being so in the moment of something and doing it just for that sake, that could have nothing to do with anything else, but because that's its own fixed thing. Yeah. So like you could be doing something and then totally the next frame, something completely different.
Yes.
But if being excited is the core kind of key that does it. If you're doing something out of fear or anxiety or something, you'll be lowering everything, lowering your frequency, lowering your opportunities, you know, like you'll be resisting. Path of least resistance is always what's the most exciting thing in the world. If it's petting your pet for a month in a row and not doing anything else, or just, you know, going to the beach for a month, just do that and don't even question what's next. Maybe the next day you get the biggest job offer in the world. You know, it's like, and if you went through that last month thinking, oh my God, how am I going to support myself? How am I, you know, you wouldn't have gotten that deal. So being like completely in the moment, not even caring what comes next is key, because that's already its own.
It's already designed.
That's already you agreed to as a soul. Like we come through with already like a blueprint of what we're going to experience. So it's really like, and I fall into it sometimes about questioning and stressing and blah, blah, blah about how, you know, the future and all this. And it's really already there.
Basically what you call excitement could be like just existence, just be in that existence.
Yeah, like, yeah, the natural, yeah, exactly, like your natural state. Like, we should not be anxious or fearful or saying like, or, you know, upset or stubborn. Like, that's not natural. That's not what a tree feels. That's not what a little kitty feels. Like, we have to be just naturally always excited. That's our nature. It's to be the most ecstatic state of being, the most euphoric state of being. Like, that's existence. And then we dial it down from there. That's already, yeah, that it's like, you don't, and it's interesting when you do expand, you realize that's always been there. It's not like you invented something new or like, oh, I got this, you know, it's like everything's already there, which is the coolest part. It's like the euphoria, the ecstaticness, the party is always there. It's just you were not there. So it's not like you invent something new or like saying, oh, I discovered a new idea or something. You just, like any, you know, multimillionaire, when they have their idea or their business or something, that was already there before they incarnated. They just stumbled and finally perceived it. You know, you don't really create anything new, which is kind of crazy. It's just like you go with the agreements kind of in the right timing and everything. And so, yeah, if you like, there is still hard work, and like persistence is important. But yeah, persistence is different than insistence. Insistence is the have to be a certain way. And then insistence is resistance. So like when you don't allow for what already exists and just to float effortlessly through life because you know you already designed it, then you start resisting, and that creates you to fall down and not get as many opportunities, not feel as great, not feel empowered and so excited to wake up in the morning. We all have those days where you just want to stay and dream all day. You know, you don't want to wake up. You just like, I want to be in bed and blah, blah, blah. So, but then some days you can't wait to jump out of bed and say, let me, you know, take every opportunity. I can't wait to ground and take action on things. And so, yeah, I think every day is becoming more and more of that for everyone, opposed to how our parents taught us that you wake up, you do your 9 to 5, you know, you work your 40 hours a week, you barely have time for your family on the weekend. And then, you know, you pay your taxes and die. Like, that's what we were programmed, which is a miserable experience, you know. Yes. It maybe not miserable for some people, but I can't even fathom that.
Yeah, no, it's very, very interesting because, yeah, the principle, the existence is whole in nature, is perfect. So through this existence that we are, we just like exist, and in this existence, you just like enjoy everything this existence is experimenting, because it just is. So yeah, basically this is what I understand from what you say. And I think in many different directions we can understand this and feel, you know, like it's not about feeling, it's something deeper. It's knowing this existence, and it can, you know, for you it came through this opening to you know, to this massive gate to first contacts, ETs, and, you know, channeling from source in a way. And from other people, for other people it's going to be different, but I think in a way we all go in that consciousness just like knowing itself perfectly. So yeah, thank you for this vision that you can, you know, put and we can understand better. I wanted to ask you, you were talking about we as humans, and who are we as humans? Like, we were talking about galactics, or just remembering we are a star seed, and you talk about hybridation, and who are we as humans in this earth, like on this earth?
So obviously, like, we are consciousness. Like I said, your identity is always you. This is just the avatar, basically. But I think you're talking about like the avatar. It's really interesting. So 300,000 to 500,000 ish years ago, the Anunnaki basically needed to mine gold to spray into their atmosphere because their atmosphere is compromised. So basically, what we're trying to do with chemtrails, gold is the actual appropriate metal that will basically balance ozones and reflect sun and stuff, and that's totally non-toxic. So gold is the thing we need, not chemtrails. They're doing it the cheaper, more toxic way that builds up in trees and stuff. So basically, they needed gold. They came to Earth to mine gold, but they realized it was such a big task that they said, okay, let's cheat a little bit. So they basically, the Cro-Magnon, the Earth man at the time, they basically infused their genetics into the Earth man, which created Adam and Eve. That's the first point of Adam and Eve, is the infusion of their DNA. They were genetic masters, which is pretty simple. But basically, our scientists still think it's, oh my God, how'd they do that? But it was very easy. But basically, they infused their genetics into the Cro-Magnon. That created the first kind of hybrid ET mixed with Earth woman, Adam and Eve, right? And that was about 300,000, 400, 500,000. And there's different timelines and stuff. But generally, this is what we agree happened. So basically, again, down the line, there was another infusion, basically around Atlantis and before then in Egypt. But basically, the Anunnaki, again, said, okay, we're going to come down and mate with the beings we created, basically. So now that's 2-part Anunnaki mixed with the 1 part. So then you got more advanced beings, more human. Basically, this is all happened, and that created the demigods of Egypt and the kings of Atlantis and the tall giants of our legends. The Anunnaki were about 8 to 9 feet. So their offspring would be about, the tall 7, 8 feet. And like, there's a lot of history about this with the giants and, so basically, but what they did was against their laws, like laws, meaning you can break, but their own laws at the time. When the councils found out they did this, they were recalled from Earth. They said, what are you guys doing? Like, you weren't supposed to create basically a slave race to mine gold for you. But it was law of attraction, and like creation never makes mistakes. So it was all agreed upon and overall allowed by creation. But their own personal laws said that they were not supposed to do that. So they were recalled from the planet, leaving man to kind of survive on its own. But they would guide us throughout the times, offer information here and there. But generally, they were pretty hands-off after that. So that's kind of how we physically exist, how we're physically humans. The Anunnaki were already very hybridized, like with 5 to 8 different DNA strands. So just by them infusing their DNA into their Earth, the naturally evolved man, that already became hybrid. So many of us already contain many strands of ET genetics because they were already mixed up. So yeah, and then down the line, that's where we got every case of royalty and royal bloodlines and stuff. Everything traces back to the Anunnaki, about they wanted to keep the bloodline pure, and kind of basically the game was how much extraterrestrial DNA can you have, kind of, and like that was seen as better or royal because they had massive upgrades in technology, and man didn't understand them at the time. Show up in a spaceship, pop out, show us all these things about genetics and math and farming. So they looked at the Anunnaki as gods in a negative way, that they weren't equals. And some of the Anunnaki at the time were more negative based and actually liked that, and they wanted to be gods. And so that's where we get this whole sense of slavery and peasants versus royalty and all those sorts of negative issues. 100% traces back to Anunnaki, and then who's less Anunnaki, kind of.
Yeah.
So that's how we physically look on Earth, is part ETs who are Anunnaki and part naturally evolved Earth Cro-Magnon. Almost basically an evolved monkey mixed with the ET. We're a perfect blend.
Yeah. Okay. And so you are saying right now on those first contacts, they've already started. What's happening in the world?
So contact's been already going on for a while, just not in our modern culture. This has been happening in native cultures for a while. We just don't know about it because it's more the indigenous cultures, the Native Americans, the people that live in jungles and stuff. They just know this is nature, this natural. It's been going on for a while. So the contacts have already been happening and will continue to happen in indigenous cultures first, then kind of one-on-one in more modern cultures, and then small group, and then kind of bigger and bigger until it gets to eventually bigger cities, and then open contacts, the floodgates open, it's accepted, it's worldwide, it's like every single movie you see nowadays has something to do with this, or some metaphor about this.
Yeah.
But it's going to start small local groups, which has been happening. You might just not know it. So I think the whole dates that Bashar has always been channeling for the last 30, 40 years is 2025 to 2033 is when those contacts will start getting more one-on-one group in our culture, in the modern world with the internet. And, but like I said, this has already been happening. There's already been multiple contacts.
Yeah.
We just don't know it. It's been happening in indigenous cultures in the jungle, But so, yeah. And then the 2033 has always been the date that is caught in the bullseye. Like something around then is always the projected, at least open contact and major networks, major cities. It might take longer in more primitive areas, but they'll learn about it, So I think that's always the date. And I truly do think that that's most likely the date. And then he's recently said, or he said this a while ago, but that date, the Interstellar Alliance, where we would actually join, is around 2037. So 5-6 years after we get used to having contact on our planet, we'll actually join formally this alliance and start going into the stars, start being aboard like politically and formally into this system. In 2001, he said there was 415 civilizations a part of this Interstellar Alliance that we will be joining. And my guide said there was basically 5 more that have been joined since. So my number is 420 of how many civilizations are in this Interstellar Alliance. There's multiple alliances, but this is the local one that will be kind of joining. And just some numbers that Bashar has channeled. In 2014, he said there was 11,712 worlds that they were aware of. So if you kind of project into now, 10 years later, I give the number like 13 to 14,000 complete worlds with life and humanoids, and maybe not humanoids, but consciousness, not just amoebas. So basically 14,000 that the Interstellar Alliance is aware of. That's kind of awesome. Scientists still say, oh, there's just maybe amoebas out there. He said 147 ET civilizations are observing and assisting our Earth. So actually partaking in like first contact, helping us out. 147 of those. And then they said there's 167 in our galaxy, different 167, give or take, in our actual reality galaxy. A lot of these things are in parallel universes, parallel realities. Like Bashar is not in our reality. So that's why we can't see their star. They make a shift to interact with it. So basically, it gets complicated about what's in our reality.
Yes.
Versus extra-dimensional reality, other dimensions. But actually in our local galaxy, in this reality that we can see, that we can travel to, primitively travel, not multidimensional, is 167. And then he said 12 of them come and go on Earth and have been coming and going on Earth. So 12 different ET races have been on our Earth or are on our Earth right now. So all that information is pretty empowering to know that we're not alone. We're not just looking at little amoebas on Mars and stuff. Like this is like common sense about how the party is. There's a massive awareness of who we are and like beings looking at it. Like we were basically like said in my post, like we're famous even though if you don't know it. Like there's many beings that you and it's all about there's privacy. Like you always agree to it. But you agree to they never breach our privacy. They never breach any contracts that you don't want. But we are being studied and seeing how we're going to defend. They said this is the darkest planet that they think they're alone in the universe. And what a surprise to find out there's 14,000 different worlds and, 420 of them that you're going to join and meet that are all different and all conscious and all beautiful technology and clean worlds. And you guys thought you were alone. Like what a cool story.
Yeah, it's so funny to just think about the idea that we are a massive TV show and that everything is here eating popcorn and watching us live on Earth and just wow, what else?
Yeah, no, it really is that. That is actually going on. It's not just a far-fetched thing anymore. You're not just called crazy anymore for thinking this. Yes. 20 years ago, it was still kind of crazy. In the 80s, if you thought this, put them in the loony bin, But now it's just common sense at this point. Like 3 stages of truth, or it's basically laughed at, it's ridiculed, then it's violently opposed, and then accepted as truth. Everyone knows that. But first people are going to laugh at you. You believe in aliens? What do you stop smoking something. And then they actually get pissed. Or some people, like the government, will actually, in the past, actually kill people and stuff. Of course, keep this information. Hey, don't share this. We're going to get violent. And then it's just, okay, everyone knows this.
Yeah.
Common sense, like get with the times.
Yeah, it's very interesting to come to that. And basically, Austin, like, okay, first contacts, they've been happening for a long time, like you said, in ancient civilizations also. And how is it gonna just like happen in a way? Are we gonna share moments with ETs? Are we just like
yeah? So basically, like 40 years is like the cycles of when something becomes totally new on Earth. It's 40-year timeline cycles. So basically, Bashar and Daryl agreed to start disseminating this information in 1983. So 2023 was the close of that 40-year cycle. Basically, so they do this for a couple of reasons, but they basically have a hands-off approach at first, off a world that's going through this, that's not ready to have first contact. But basically, they disseminate information through channels because, one, you don't have to believe the channel. You can call them crazy. You don't have to accept the information. You can just put it off. And they can allow people to apply and absorb the information at our own rate. For showing up and saying, like, hey, because everyone, you know, they don't want to get involved in they don't want to do our homework for us. Be like, oh, let me do your time. You know, it's like, so that's why they start slow by going through physical, they call them like biological telephones. So he actually like plays telephone with his oversoul consciousness that is in a parallel reality and extraterrestrial. He kind of they say he overlays his consciousness on top of Daryl's consciousness. It kind of doesn't take over, but because he's a way higher vibrating being, they operate 10 times faster in their reality. So 10 times faster, and then way faster than we can even imagine about their civilization. It's not really like 10 times is what our brain can perceive of it. But anyway, he overlays this thing, and then Daryl basically goes into a dream state and then brings through the entity they call it Bashar. So basically this cycle just ended, and now they're becoming more active and more hands-on and more interactive of where we're going next. So basically 10 or 11 things are going to happen through their channeling this year. They gave one, they're calling them basically 11 steps to take action on, of how we can physically take action and not just know knowledge and stuff. So they're going to he's about to give the second step about how we physically start taking action, and kind of more of a hands-on approach. So this is the next phase, is like this next year. Basically the first one, which is a little controversial for some people, but the first step they gave was to not share, not post, not talk about any conspiracy theories. And they say, let this work itself out. They say basically the rule of thumb is 1/3 of conspiracy theories are overinflated. So a third of it is true and 2/3 are overinflated or overexaggerated. And this can get us into trouble because we put ourselves in too much fear, too much question, too much negativity. It becomes a trap because you constantly get paranoid, and it reinforces that, oh my God, there's conspiracies everywhere around the corner you look. It must be connected. It must be, it's like, so basically the first step is to absolutely disconnect from that concept. Let all that, they said, you'll learn what you need to learn. We'll expose everything. Drop conspiracy is their first step. He's about to give the second step, which is interesting. And they'll give once a month. So he started in January, so 11 this year. And the whole concept is to not just do the one and then move on to two. Do one, keep doing one. When they give the second one, keep doing one and two, keep doing, so it's going to ramp us up. And if you do every single step, he said, you'll be that much closer to the frequency of the beings that are in the interstellar alliance. So these are all literally actionable things we can take to upgrade our frequency to be highly aligned, highly compatible. And the whole point is the ETs, they're equals to us. Yeah. Never ever see them as, oh my God, you guys are better. You have all this technology. No, they never ever want to. No, yeah. Why would you want to interact with someone like that? It's like, I'm in Hollywood and stuff, and celebrities want to interact with equals. Celebrities don't want to interact with, the fans, really. It's a kind of a weird concept. They only interact with equals that are equally on their level. No one wants a fan. Oh my God, Bashar, I love you. Like, you teach me all this. That's not fun for them. They want to interact with absolute equals. So all these steps that they're going to share are to make us more and more equal. And that's when first contact happens. Like, extraterrestrials are just other people that are higher vibrating. There's nothing crazy about it. It's just they're high vibrating, very aligned, very refined. and it's like they're not going to interact with. They can only lower their frequency. So it's always about, we have to meet them in the middle, about really, really upgrading ours. Or else it's like law of attraction. It's that law. But why would you want to go into the biggest jail, and interact with those inmates? Is kind of the whole analogy. No, you say, I don't prefer that. I don't want to lower my frequency that much. So that's the kind of, they say, no offense, but we don't want to land on your world yet. You guys are, it's like, why would we want to land in the middle of an insane asylum? So until you guys raise and become more creative and more synchronous and more natural, work on your systems, get rid of toxins, get rid of pollution. So they're just equal. They have their own lives. They're not here to just babysit us all day. Yeah. So they're like, why would we want to come to Earth and breathe your toxic air? And so we're doing all the work we can to get equal to them. Is the whole point.
Yeah. And what's your vision on what we call the Blue Beam Project? Like, is it something that is meant to scare us?
I've never agreed. That's never sat with me. And I think that has to do with applies to the first step that they gave. Is just to put all that aside for a second, We'll just let go of that concept. That's never resonated with me. Every timeline and reality exists, is the whole point. So there are worlds that will happen. There are worlds that, so what you focus on, you lock yourself into that reality. Yeah. So that's part of the biggest gift, is what they just gave, is to drop conspiracy theories, because they know that unlocks you, and that truly, truly makes you, it gets rid of the negative kind of concepts of a lot of us still are holding on to. Like, a lot of us are very, very spiritual, and but when you start interacting and see how good they are, it's like kind of like when you go, you're a great basketball player in high school, but then you get to college, you're like, I'm nothing. I got to do my work to get to where the seniors. When you're really good in college, you get to the NBA, you're a scrub. So yeah, it's like we think we're good and think we're spiritual, and then until you start interacting with some of these beings, and you say, wow, I still have a lot of work and a lot of baggage to let go of. And but I would say let go of that whole blue-green. Don't worry about it. Focus on your excitement.
That's what I thought when you weren't.
Or else it's law of attraction. You'll bring that into this reality. You'll focus on it. It's kind of like the TV show. Like, you'll turn to that channel.
Your consciousness, so you can just experience whatever you want as a consciousness. So yeah.
Yeah, because everything exists. Star Wars exists. Like, all these things, everything. Like, if you want to fight and be a galactic warrior and go through all that, that's there for you. If you don't and you want to live crazy, beautiful life in nature with natural things, that's there. If you want to live on a polluted Earth, go down and destroy ourselves, that's there. Like, every single, multiple things are happening. They call it the splitting prism. Exactly. So those that are truly, truly negative, and we're seeing this with all these wars and stuff. Some people are getting bombed and obliterated, and no offense, but that's their law of attraction. Like, they're creating that. Everything's a choice. It might be for a higher reason. It might be to finally heal, but some people are going through war. Some people are going through the best times of their life. It's very simple of what law of attraction means. It's the second law.
Yeah. And I know we've talked together a lot about Christ consciousness and Jesus Christ and Jesus in the name of him as man. What is your perception on Christ consciousness rising today?
Yeah, so the whole kind of second coming of Christ is basically awareness that we are Christ. Like, Christ is a frequency, it's not a being, right? So basically, he always said he never wanted to create followers or Christians. He wanted to create leaders and Christ. That's the biggest misrepresentation. And the Bible and all these teachings have been manipulated for political reasons, for personal reasons. A lot of things have been edited, but basically he always said, you're equal to me. You are exactly like me. He said, I'm just an example. So don't follow me. Don't look at me like anything different. Like, he said, I want to create a different version of new leaders and new Christ, not Christians, not followers, not saying, you're my middleman to God. Like, that's disempowering. But of course, it was twisted, and for all the reasons you can think of, the money systems didn't like that. They didn't like that idea of everyone being equal and part of control. But yeah, so the second coming of Christ is basically an awareness that we are Christ. You are Christ. oh, then that's not going to ever happen in one person, because that ended pretty disastrously. So multiple Christs, he agreed to play that one person in that time to be like, okay, I'll be the reflection, the embodiment. And we saw how it ended. Like, they couldn't deal with it. You know, we say, we're going to kill this thing because we can't get it. We don't get it yet. People couldn't accept that their own power, that they were Christ. So basically that's why the manifestation of the crucifixion, and they basically said, no, I'm not Christ yet. So yeah, he said, okay, I'm gonna leave and you'll figure it out. But yeah, he was pretty powerful, obviously a boss of a being to do that, to be this single reflection. But yeah, there's nothing really, he always said that it was nothing. He was basically talking about metaphysical concepts, exactly what the ET share. These metaphysical, actionable, things that we can take action on. Not this crazy, oh my God, religious, like, it's very hard to access, and oh, it's magic and blah blah blah. Like, no, it's very metaphysical, very scientific. In the Bible, they say when he went back to his hometown, he couldn't do anything they thought, because it's all about belief. So like, when he went back to, like, he was only a carpenter. When he went back to his hometown, they only saw him as a carpenter. So they said, oh, that's the kid that was just a carpenter girl. So like, that happens nowadays too. Like, when you go home, you kind of feel like, oh, I don't have powers. Like, my parents see me as like that kid, like, that hasn't transformed yet, because that's their belief. So he said it's always about belief. It's not about physical fact. He always said your belief that you've been healed, your faith that you've been healed, is what healed you. Jesus knew that he never ever healed anyone. It was them believing that they would be healed, that they healed themselves. Yeah. So it's always about belief. He knew this, and he never ever said that he was anything more than just a human that got it. And of course, they twisted it and made him super special and all this stuff, and super hard to, you can't be Jesus. You can't be like, very, very hard, all these middlemen to get to. You got to go through the church and the cardinals and the bishops and, all these middlemen to get to God. So they created an extremely, like, slavery, disempowering system through most religions. There's this basically systems to control, and religion is just breaking down, because it's, no offense to anyone that's religious, but it's, nonsensical at our point where we graduated from that. It's kind of like we graduated high school. Now we see everything as more metaphysics, equality, science, and less religion, less magic. Magic's just technology you don't understand yet. So same thing with all these, the UFOs and stuff. Oh, it's magic. How do you do that? Certain people that don't believe in this, you can't travel from star to star in a blink of an eye. That's magic. How do you do it? But it's actually just physics, and it's very, very basic if you understand it. So.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it, because you experience whatever you know, in a way that, okay, I know I'm a starseed. I know I'm Christ consciousness. I know everything that comes to your mind and to the bigger mind, and you just experience everything that you want, because everything exists. Everything is already done, created, perfect, and you experience whatever you choose, in a way.
Yeah, it's that simple. There's all realities, all truths exist. All truths are truth. Like, every single truth, whatever's true for you is what you'll experience. That's the biggest kind of secret, is there's no one truth, there's no one reality. Every single truth, every single reality is real. And whatever you really focus on is what you're going to get. And one more thing about the Jesus is the Mary Magdalene was basically edited from the Bible. She was his basically co-flame, twin flame, and wife. They had kids. Basically, the bloodline is called the Merovingian bloodline, about the descendants of Jesus. And basically, there's some information out there, but if people want to research the Merovingian kind of dynasty bloodline, they were apparently the first kings of France. Okay. And you're French, right?
Yes.
And Mary Magdalene, where was she buried? France.
Yeah, that's
a lot of So a lot of us are. Jesus is our great grandfather. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You talked on a post I've been replying when you posted it. You were talking about this exactly, the descendants of Jesus and this bloodline, and it's very interesting. Yeah, all this story. So basically, are we all from this bloodline, or? Not completely.
Not all, but most spiritual ones are probably connected to it. As the population, expanded, blew up. But yeah, I'd say if we're, law of attraction, if you're talking to certain people or if they're in your life, there's probably a good chance that you're connected or very closely related to that. And again, it's just a human that got it at the time. And a cool concept that Bashar described about the Virgin Mary, that whole concept. Basically, there was obviously physical sex. He was born via sex. She was not a virgin, but he was hybridized in the womb. So ETs actually genetically altered him in the womb. That's where you get the term Virgin Mary. There was a physical being created, but then there was beings that I think they were the Pleiadians, but basically altered his genetics to be more receptive, to basically be upgraded in the womb that she had no control over. Or she agreed to it, but that's where the term Virgin Mary comes from, that he was actually like a hybrid, genetically altered in the womb by ETs. So yeah, he's connected to extraterrestrials, he's connected to the Anunnaki, which is, again, it's the royal bloodline. So that's why it's an extension of the Anunnaki. And really cool that basically 300,000 years ago, Anunnaki, right? So the Anunnaki evolved into the Pleiadians, into the Illyrians, into the tall Nordics, into us, obviously. So basically, like, when you see things linearly, it kind of gets, we like to see things as a story linearly, but it's more multidimensionally. Yeah, so that he's connected to all that, what we've already been talking, those kind of. So he was basically one of like the first famous hybrids. He was an extraterrestrial hybrid, that's why. And then by genetically being altered, he had, access to knowledge and stuff just naturally. So yeah, the more genetically related you are to ETs, the more you can kind of naturally, like, you'll have maybe more receptivity in the pineal gland. You might, it's like certain little things add up to like why you even say, oh, I'm a starseed. Like maybe you are because of the genetic, but like I said, everyone's a starseed, but maybe it is because of like something spinning differently in your DNA that you do say, oh my God, I'm a starseed and I'm gonna discover all this stuff, for someone that never ever knows about it, that works a job the whole life and is okay with just being an earth human. But that's, again, as spiritual, there's nothing to judge to say that's different or less better, that you don't know this and you're not spiritual and blah, blah, blah. So everything's completely equal. It's just choice.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. And I had this question, as we were talking about descendants, different bloodlines. And if we happen to have all these encounters, ET encounters, more and more on Earth, are we going to be having relationships, like making kids together on Earth?
Yeah, eventually. Yeah. Okay, so a lot of us have hybrid children already that we've agreed to do this in our sleep state and dream state, the abduction scenario. A lot of us have agreed to give our DNA to create hybrids. Like Greys, the whole basic in a nutshell, Greys were a parallel reality human that destroyed their world, lost the ability to reproduce, kind of hit a dead end, and then knew they had to get viable DNA. They had multidimensional technology to tunnel into parallel realities that had humans with viable DNA. We happen to be one of them. Hey, look at that planet with healthy humans.
Yeah.
Basically, it's all a soul agreement. They're our cousins. They're our oversoul counterparts. Most of us have a life as a Grey. Hard to believe it or not, but yeah, we did go totally that direction of self-destruction. And Earth was so close to actually doing it. In the 1980s, if we kept going, like, yeah, Earth done, destroyed itself, deforestation, toxic, overly toxic. Like Earth almost went there, and I think we just hit the point where we're good. Like we're in the clear, we're good, or else the ETs would not be interacting with. They say they interact with many timelines, different worlds. He said we would not be talking to a world that chose to destroy itself. He said it's very quiet there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin. It's so fascinating. I could go for hours. Is there anything you want to add about all these subjects we talked together, or something more personal, maybe?
No, I just think that taking action is absolutely the key about everything, which they've always said, the ETs, action is the language of physical reality. So if you think or just talk something, no one's going to really understand you until they see you do it, see you take action on something. Then they say, oh, let me be like him because I saw what he did, or I saw like Jesus or anyone. They took action. He just didn't think about it all day. Like, I'm spiritual. No one's going to hear you. So I think we're at the stage where the more of us take action and actually spread and talk about this openly and have small groups and meetings and go out and shake hands, and maybe someone's really spiritual that had no idea about the ETs, that immediately like get locked into like, oh, this is so interesting. Like I was there frequency wise, but I didn't necessarily know it. So I think the law of attraction is there where everyone's needing and receptive to this knowledge. Now it's just really pushing it about taking action. Like we're the ground crew, basically. We're the extraterrestrial hybrid ground crew to spread knowledge, spread information. Don't just think about it. Don't just research it, but take action on it. Because that's actually what people are going to remember you for, is not what he thought about all day. It's what he did. You know, the actions are, the famous term, action speaks louder than words. So yeah, I think we're at the stage, and those 12 steps that are giving the Interstellar Alliance is giving us. I encourage everyone to really take action on every 12 step. Basically, he said if you take half the steps, you'll be 50% of the frequency of the Interstellar Alliance, the beings that operate at that level. If you do all the steps, you'll be 100% compatible as a loose term. If you do one of them, if you do one of them, you'll be 10%. And then it's law of attraction. It's like, okay, if you want to stay there, maybe in your reality, you don't necessarily attract first contact, or maybe it's later for you. Like there's all sorts of timelines might happen. Maybe it happens in 2050 for some people. Maybe it happens in 2029 for some people. Like you never know. You don't know your history. You don't know how things work. Like I said, continuity is an illusion. So you might just shift into something and be like, oh, that was always my future, or always my history, or this is, you know, this happened for everyone. But no, maybe you shifted an Earth where it didn't happen for a lot of those people, but you know, you never know. And these are different versions of those people. Like, it's that crazy. But it's that much of an illusion that you just say, oh, that's my whole history. That happened. And then this is, you know, this happened at that date. Maybe that didn't happen at that date. Maybe you shifted and you're just agreeing that that happened. Like all sorts of, it breaks down the mind a little bit about timeline shifting and parallel reality jumping. Calling what's history is actually kind of an illusion. We're just saying, oh, okay, that happened at that date, but maybe for you it didn't. You're just agreeing that that did. Like all sorts of crazy, wacky, cool things that maybe for another conversation.
Yes, so much to say, but yeah, we are here to make this experience fully and to live. And like you said, take action. I think that's a wonderful reminder to just be, exist, and experience everything, experiment everything.
Yeah, I think these next, up to the last thing I guess I want to say is they've channeled 2027, around 2027, there's going to be a mass event, ET contact event. Yes. So this is going to be the first major thing that's going to go viral, global. So this is very exciting to look forward. We're about 3 years away. Or it could be sooner. They said end of 2026, early 2027. They didn't give the reason why this might happen, but they said it'll be needed to show ourselves, uncloak. So there's going to be some kind of massive ET contact event. They assured the whole world will be aware of.
Okay.
So that's what we have to look at. That's our president.
An idea where it's gonna take place?
I'm open. I don't want to spoil anything, but I think there's gonna be a few sacred spots at once. That's my thing. It might just be one spot that kind of goes viral. But I think most people, and I did a little survey, and I think 70% of people agreed it would be in multiple spots around or at the same time, maybe in these ley lines, these vortex points that people that they operate in. So, but once something goes kind of viral, I think the control systems are there, or they're not there anymore, where they can't suppress it. Like, so it's gonna basically hit the interwebs, and it's gonna not be able to be controlled anymore, which it was easier to do, but we're at that point where it's
gonna go. Yeah,
we're ready. Yeah. So whether people see it in person or not, they'll see the footage. They'll see this is like real deal. But anyway, I don't even know. I don't want to ruin my own surprise.
Yes.
Yeah, so we know this is happening at the time when bashed our channel. That I think you said 90 to 95% chance that this is going to happen. Everything's probabilities. So, but I'll take my bets on that. I'll bet on that in Vegas. If they say you want to spin something 9 out of 10 times, you'll get it. I think that's going to happen right around 2027.
Okay. Wow. So much to live, so much to experience again on this earth. So I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much, Austin, for your time, for everything that you just shared with me and with us. We can find you on your Instagram, First Contact US, or also We Are the Stars. That's your...
Yeah, We Are the Stars is
We Are the Stars.
me and my twin. That's our music group.
Music group.
Yeah, We Are the Stars Music is that Instagram, coming out with a new project. But yeah, merging music and kind of ET Contact is, I think, at one point I thought it was kind of separate, but I know it's two different sides of the same coin.
I think
so. We're really excited to apply music and events and festivals, and with ET Contact, we visualize
why not
them being a part of the shows in the future, where you're playing, performing on Coachella, and all of a sudden massive lights come out in the sky. That's been my dream. So
I think that's
part of that day.
Mix all together, because nothing separated ever. So
exactly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Austin.
Well, thank you so much as well. And
bye-bye. Thank you.